Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and I'm going to go a little further into what was discovered on the Giza Plateau a little under 200 years ago by archaeologists who went in here and tried to put together a story of these ancient monuments, which are really unknown to the world at that time in the 19th century. And all of this was pretty much new, and, anything that was found was documented, and I don't think they realized how important some of their discoveries were. And just jumping over here, I'm going to concentrate on one area around the Sphinx and tunnels and chambers that were discovered and explored according to this book that was written in 1837. But here you see Zahi Hawass emerging from one of the chambers, and this is right on the back side of the Sphinx. The back would be the back north side of the hind end of the Sphinx, coming out literally of the rump of the Sphinx. There's Zahi, who says there's no need to excavate or examine beneath the Sphinx. Yet he talks about, in 1980, talking about going beneath the Sphinx. But a team from Japan did an electromagnetic sounding survey of the Sphinx area. And going over to Google Earth here, a cavity was discovered in this area, and this is the area where Zahi Hawass was emerging from, I believe, right about in there. But there was a tunnel and there was a shaft discovered here, according to the gentleman who wrote this book in 1837. And I'm going to jump over to that book now and tell you what he says he discovered. And I really looked into this book, and this is written by a gentleman who has kind of received some unfair criticism, I believe. His documentation is meticulous. It matches what was discovered later on the Giza Plateau. So I don't think there is a lot to be questioned here. And it just rings true with me, just based on his meticulousness. Meticulousness, is that a word? But it is well written and well documented, and I just want to read to you what he found in the shaftways just off the back end of the Sphinx. And this comes from, I believe, June of 1837, and he has these all dated. I examined the shaft to the north of the Sphinx. The tomb was an excavation in the rock and was entered on the southern side. An outer chamber conducted in two others, one to the north and the other to the west. Both of them contained shafts, and over that, in the western chamber, a figure in a sitting posture had been sculpted in a niche. As our object was to ascertain the level of the water, we only cleared out the shaft in the northern chamber, which was found to contain, at certain depths, a sarcophagus in a grotto or recess. The level of the water is given in the appendix, excuse me, and the only objects of interest which we met with consisted of some green idols and a flat stone marked with 1 or 2 straight lines, and the fragment of a sphinx, about 18 inches long, roughly carved in coarse stone without inscription or hieroglyphs. The boring rods were broken owing to the carelessness of the Arabs at the depth of 27 feet in the back of the Sphinx. Various attempts were made to get them out, and on the 21st of July, gunpowder was used for that purpose, but being unwilling to disfigure this venerable monument, the excavation was given up, and several feet of boring rods were left in it. During the operation, a very beautiful fossil of a reed was discovered, which is now in the British Museum. The shaft to the westward of the Sphinx was in a tomb formed in a ledge of rock. It was considerable depth. From the bottom of it, apartments had been excavated to the east and west. That to the east contained a sarcophagus of granite covered with hieroglyphs, the lid of which had been removed. Out of this apartment was another to the northward, with a recess on the eastern side, and 2 passages branched off towards the south. They had already been plundered and contained only a small amount of sand, a few large stones, and shallow water, which stood at the depth of 4 inches within the sarcophagus, and must have been some time or other, therefore, as high as the top of it, unless it had been placed there by modern explorers. It goes on to say, Abdel Ardi told me that the doorway into this tomb had been filled with masonry, and that he had formerly cleared the sand out of it by a hole, which may still be seen near the entrance. Our researches, as in other tombs, were confined to the examination of the water, and that just seems to reflect what was discovered later on. There was a water table that kind of rose and fell beneath the Sphinx, and it is documented in these tombs cut down into these shafts deep into the ground. One of them is exactly 72 feet below the ground. I find that number interesting there. But I am going to go into the Osiris tomb, Campbell's tomb, and the whole underworld of the Giza Plateau in later videos. So I just found this all very, very interesting. What seems to be a detailed, accurate archaeological excavation done on the Giza Plateau in 1837, decades before Egyptologists got a stranglehold on the information coming out of this area. They talk of wells, shafts, chambers, apartments, sarcophagus, green idols, seated figures, and this comes from a time well after this place was originally plundered, and the author of this book says that these places were obviously looted in remote antiquity, but this is what was found, according to this author, in 1837, in this area, where imaging was done in 1987 that confirms an underground chamber. I just thought this was worth sharing. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.